Hi, we're Evan and Jasmine. Our first 6 years of marriage consisted of traveling the world. Then in 2019, we got pregnant and were blessed with a baby boy. Our son is diagnosed with Agenesis of the Corpus Callosum, which means he's developmentally delayed and is taking the Scenic Route when it comes to meeting his milestones. Follow us as we continue to take the Scenic Route with our special needs child.
Okay, so in today's episode of the Scenic Route, my niece, Selena, she has decided that she wanted to ask us some questions, and she actually took a lot of time to write down some questions, but we're actually going to ask her some questions too. So this is going to be like an interview style episode, and I hope you guys enjoy.
Okay.
Hey, Eskimo.
Okay. First question. What is the most hardest part of being a special needs parent?
The hardest part would be, I feel like, the feeling of feeling defeated. And it's like an illustration, or like what that really feels like is like being an athlete, and let's say you're preparing for a game, and you train really, really hard, and you keep training, and you show up to the game, and you just keep losing and getting defeated. And I feel like that's what it's like to be a special needs parent. That's the hardest part. And I mean, in terms of like the losing aspect, it's like the going to the doctor's appointments, and getting new diagnoses, and fighting for therapies for your son, and just resources for your child. And it's just a constant battle and fight to advocate for your child. And yeah, it's just hard when you go to doctor's appointments, and it's just like it's another thing after another thing after another thing, so I feel like that for me is the hardest part.
The hardest part of being a special needs parent for me personally is watching our son struggle. And this is our first child, so I only know what I know from him. I haven't raised any other children. I've been around babies a little bit in my life, but not a ton. But it became really clear, around the 6 to 8 month mark and further, that he was really developmentally delayed. And it's been really hard just watching him struggle to do really basic things like grab something with his hands, or do tummy time, roll over, sit up on his own. All of those things have been tough or non-existent. And the hardest part is, connected to that, is seeing another child and another baby that's at his same age, and to see how far advanced they are, and how developmentally advanced they are compared to him. It's just crazy. But with that comes reward, and I feel like even though that's really hard to deal with, the progress that he does make is that much more meaningful and monumental for us. And honestly, within the last 3 months, 2 to 3 months, he has flourished and blossomed more than we had ever thought he would in such a short amount of time. And we're really, really proud of his development and where he's come. So, with all the hard stuff comes good stuff as well.
Okay. The opposite. What is the most joyful part of being a special needs parent?
So the most joyful part of being a special needs parent is that I'm this little guy's parent, and he brings me so much joy. He is just so fun and happy, and he is just giggles and smiles and cuddles, like everything happiness, So, I mean, yeah, like I mentioned before, it's hard being a special needs parent, but then like there's so much joy from your child when you know that you're doing the absolute best you can for them, and then they return like the gratitude with just like their sweetness and their kindness.
The most joyful thing about being a special needs parent, I would say it's the the pride that I feel with figuring somebody out so deeply and being able to take care of someone so deeply. We've been to more doctor's appointments and more specialist appointments than we can count. It's been insane. But with that has come a really deep understanding of who our son is, both externally and internally. And we've figured a lot of really important things out about him that has dramatically improved his health. And because his health has improved, his development has improved. And so to know our son so well, medically and physically and personality-wise, just gives me so much joy, because I do feel like we've tried so hard to care for him in the best way that we can. And I get so much joy out of knowing that a lot of our efforts are paying off and it's actually working for him. And I just can't wait to see what the next steps are for him.
Do you find your baby any different than other babies on the outside and in the inside?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Well, obviously.
That's hard. I mean, like, similar in the sense that, like, yeah, he's a baby and he wants to be held and he likes baby things. He likes to be tickled. But yeah, he's definitely, if you put him side by side next to your child his age, there's definitely a stark contrast. And yeah, and then the outside, I feel like he doesn't have any really big physical differences other than that he's smaller and he's, a little delayed. And then he has his G-tube, so that's like a physical difference that you see. But yeah, other than that, he's pretty cute.
I think it would be impossible for us to not recognize that our baby is different. The thing I think that a lot of parents will say is that every kid is different, and that is 100% true. The tough part about it for us is that our kid is different in a way that really limits him and sets him back for a lot of things. And his future is very, very uncertain as far as what he will be able to accomplish in life. Because of his physical and mental limitations based on his condition. So, yes, 100% our kid is different. Do we care in the sense that, like, we wish he was different than he is? Absolutely not. We love him unconditionally, and the joy he gives us because of who he is exactly and not any different is why we love him so much. And we honestly, of course, we would want some of the challenges to be less hard than they have been, especially for him. When he struggles medically, he's had surgeries, and no child should have to go through that at such a young age. So the fact that he has had surgeries in his life is heartbreaking. So yes, we'd maybe want some of those things to be a little bit different. But everything about him is perfect, and we love him. What were your initial thoughts? What were your first thoughts when you heard that he had a problem with his brain?
I was sad, but I knew it was good for him that you knew that something was wrong with him instead of not knowing. But honestly, I was just very sad that I knew he had something wrong with his brain. Okay. What do you admire most of your baby?
Just that he's happy all the time. He gets fussy, but he doesn't scream, and it's not often, he's pretty easy to soothe. He thrives on touch. He thrives on touch and sound.
What do I admire most about Elán? Okay, so I truly, deep down, believe that he is one of the strongest people I've ever met. The amount of medical issues and struggles that he's had in life, from weight gain to feeding issues, to growth issues, to developmental issues, has been incredibly hard on us. But you can tell through him that it's been really hard on him, and he just deals with it. Like, he gets nightly injections and he doesn't put up a fuss about it at all. He's gotten his blood drawn more times than I've gotten my blood drawn in the last 10 years. And he doesn't, he puts up a fuss because it hurts, probably really bad, but then he gets over it. And, he's had all his immunizations, which, that's more shots. And he just handles everything like a champ. He's had surgeries and he's recovered from them amazingly. And I just admire how strong he is. He's mentally limited, but he's also mentally stronger than a lot of other people that I've met. And it's a really beautiful thing to witness.
Did you find it hard when you found out Elán had to eat through a feeding tube?
Yeah, I think more so than Evan, because I think as a mom it was a lot harder as a parent, because I really tried, I really wanted to breastfeed my son, and I didn't get to hold him when he was born, and I was really sad about that. So the next thing I had in my mind was like, I want to have this experience with my son and provide, food for him and have that bond. So when they told me that he would be on the G-tube when he was 3 weeks old, I took it really hard. I remember I started crying just because I knew that our, that journey was done. And yeah, I worked really hard to, for that.
So when he was about 3 weeks old, we went to the hospital because our pediatrician thought that he was actually potentially having seizures because of the way that his mannerisms and how he was acting when he was crying. And what ended up happening from that hospital visit and stay there, we were there for 3 days, was that they did a feeding study, and they discovered that he was not swallowing properly, and some of the food was going into his lungs, which could have potentially caused pneumonia over time. And it's weird. Me and Jasmine have very different experiences with this, but I was almost happy at the result of the hospital visit, because I knew that something wasn't right, and we actually discovered something that we could do to help him thrive in life, which was feed him a different way. It started out through his nose, through an NG tube, and we did that for about 6 weeks, and then he had his first surgery so that he got a PEG tube, which is like a G tube, and we've been able to feed him what he's needed to eat. It's something really interesting about him has been his nutritional needs, and so his caloric needs have been much different than a lot of kids his age. And so we feed him more than a lot of other kids eat. And you can't really do that orally, no matter what, because a kid would just reject it. But by being able to do that through a G-tube has actually helped us accomplish that and helped him grow, which he's struggled with growth his entire life. How does it feel to care for him and to be able to feed him and give him medicines, and you're only 11 years old? How does it feel for you to be able to provide for him at such a young age?
I feel like it's just very special that I know how and can teach other people how to do that, and it just makes me feel good about myself that I know how to feed my own cousin. Okay, last question. How did you react when the doctor said that Elán might be physically and mentally disabled?
Yeah, that was a hard day. You don't expect to ever hear that at a doctor's appointment. It's like one of those things you don't really ever expect to happen to you. And so when it does, I feel like it's earth-shattering. It's like you're in a dream, and it's like you're walking around in a fog, and I couldn't really comprehend it that first day. But yeah, and I remember waking up the next day, and it's just like you feel the realities of like, okay, well, this is our life, or this could be our life, you know. And me and Evan had a lot of conversations of what our life, what changes might be impacted in our life, and we had to grieve a lot of things that we thought we may be doing with our son, and think about, you know, what our life would eventually look like, you know. But yeah, I feel like we definitely grieved, gave ourselves a couple days, and then went back to being happy about our son, because no matter what, we knew we were going to love him.
What would you say to other family members, not in your family, but other families that have a cousin or a nephew or something with special needs? What would you tell those people about what it's like to have a cousin or a nephew or whatever with special needs?
I would say to just spend as much time with the baby, because you get to admire how different they are, but it's just can't explain it. It's just different than having a regular cousin, because, well, it's just hard to explain, like, because I've had such a good bond with him, and I just don't want anyone to waste that bond. If something different is with your cousin or any family member, just don't waste that bond that you would have with that baby.